Hey Rebelscum, how's it going? Gonna have something different for you guys today. It's not gonna be a jumbo. It's not gonna be an egg attack. It's going to be a retrospective series. So this is a little bit new. We're gonna be taking a look back at things through the years for the past 45 years of collecting, roughish in that time frame. We're going to start with the Death Star, a very iconic component of Star Wars. It's also the logo for Rebelscum, so it just feels appropriate to start there. So we'll be taking a look back from 1978 to the present of everything produced in the 3 3/4 inch line, or 375, however you prefer to call it. Anything that fits with those smaller scale figures, either a playset or an element. And hopefully we captured everything, but you could always let us know if we missed something. And hopefully there's some surprises along the way of things you didn't know about, or this could just be a great reference for you. So today we're going to start with our part 1, which is going to be everything vintage from 1978 up through 1980, and or 1981, depending on the rough release date period there. And then we'll do a part 2 series, which will be everything from the Power of the Force line in 1995 until today. So, of course, we have to begin with the mother of all Death Star playsets, the 1978 Death Star Space Station playset by Kenner. Still kind of the gold standard in Death Star playsets. I don't think Hasbro or Kenner has done anything as large since then. So, you know, as always, I love looking at boxes, and Kenner is some of my favorite box art ever. I mean, they really captured that sense of that whimsy and excitement on a playset. Future elements, removed sort of kids playing on the boxes, which was kind of cool with things like this. All the vintage collection really just focuses more on the vehicles, which is fair. I don't think a lot of vehicles had shots of people playing with them, but you got some great playing elements on the side, like you have the Rebels there going down the trash chute, and you know, my box is a little rough, but the trash compactor, and you always got this great like almost coloring book back to these boxes. I know some people used to color these in, but the little black and white shot, and then just showing off those additional action role play elements on the sides, and it's just a great design. I love these boxes. A great sense of nostalgia to them, but they really captured the essence of the set themselves. But yeah, why don't we just get right into it and go over some of the features of this amazing playset, which was sort of the grandfather of all the playsets. A great place to start in our series. I love this thing. I mean, you got these outer Death Star panels here on the surface. It's kind of a slice, and I always wondered if you have a whole bunch of these together, if you could make a spherical Death Star, which would be really cool. But it's just a little wedge, but it captures a lot of the elements from the movie. Of course, you got your turbo lasers here, although they didn't produce the Death Star gunner, I believe, until around 85 when he came out in that last 17 wave. So at the time, you pretty much just had a stormtrooper to use in this gun. Has that great clicking that Kenner is known for in the weapon here. And I believe it explodes off the base here when you hit the release button and pops up. But that's really all it does here. Of course, you got the power generator here that Obi-Wan disabled, so they worked that element into the set as well. So it's got a little stickers for the panel work and a little peg here for him to walk around the back of. But then turning it to the inside here, we just have some control panels. You got the Death Star there as it traveled around Yavin toward the end of the movie, which was really neat. Of course, you got the chasm here, which is a very reduced size version of it. The bridge does retract to allow you to have that, well, it used to retract a lot better. This thing has seen better days. Kind of just gives you that role play, here it goes, that role play element where Luke and Leia could swing across. This is it as far as the rope. They don't have that grappling hook extension that Luke has. You really won't see that for about another roughly 30 years when they produced a figure with that. So we'll get into that in the next part. But you could put an arm through that and swing across to the other side of the bridge. But that's basically that element of the film there. Down here, you got more of your detention center. I think they made it with a couple panels for like a with the death squad commander at the time was called, could fit into here. And then, of course, you have that great trash chute escape right here, which is in the floor. Really glad they included that as an option because it just lets you relive that element of the film, which was pretty awesome. And it does lead down to the trash compactor, which I'll show you in a second. But also, one of my favorite features of this set was the elevator. So the elevator is sort of running central through the entire unit, and it has this great rotating closing component here for the doors. But basically, you just kind of lift the tab here on the side, and the elevator can go all the way up to the top. And then when you get to a desired floor, you just kind of twist the tab, and it will hold it in place and then allow you to have that futuristic elevator opening, which is really cool that they did something like that at the time. A nice little fun bit of engineering. I think it really enhances the playset. Glad they included it. And then you got the trash compactor here. So the trash compactor actually can come out separately of the playset if you want. Whoop, well, there goes my panel. If you wanted to, and I'll just take it out to give you a closer look at it. We'll just kind of stick this here for now. So basically what you had in here is you had that door that very closely replicates the door in the movie, which I think was really great to get the design down that just opens here. And then there's some glass so you could see it. You basically just twisted this compacting portion of it to kind of condense everything. And then all that was inside, and I'm still amazed that this hasn't dissolved, was the foam trash of several different colors. And the Dianoga figure here, which is kind of a flexible, rubbery thing, not your standard hard plastic with a mouth at the bottom. Now, this was the only figure to come with the space station. Everything else was just the space station, all the components. They actually just call him Trash Monster in the instructions, so he wasn't Dianoga yet, as far as widely known or labeled on the figure. Did not get that label on the individual figure until the release of the Gentle Giant one. I don't know if you could see it over my shoulder, when they included him with Trash again as a SDCC or celebration release at the time, featuring the Dianoga with his foam trash. So that was the only other release of this vintage version of him, and he's still kind of rubbery in that version, which I really like. But that was just a great aspect to keep into this playset, because I'm a huge fan of the Dianoga in general, and I think he really kind of works in this set. So that's basically the Kenner Death Star set. It was the first one. It's still probably one of the best ones. It's the only one of this scale and scope. Everything else you'll see in the future was kind of pared down, or just a section of each one of these instead of the whole. So this is a great place to start. It's, obviously not in production anymore. It would be amazing if Hasbro did this in the retro collection of bringing the space station back to allow you to use all your retro figures in it. It's a simple design, but it's an awesome design, and it really captures a lot of aspects of the movie with that great, throwback or that amazing Kenner artwork they have on the inside panels. And you see throughout everything else I show you, the artwork is just awesome on everything Kenner did. So that's all on this one. Let's fast forward a little bit to the 78, 79 time frame and show you what's next. Next up, 78, 79 time frame, we have this Star Wars display stand that came out. This is more Death Star adjacent. I'm only mentioning this to be thorough because you can see the Death Star in the background. So everything Death Star related will be mentioned in this segment. This was basically just a display stand for your figures. I don't have the box, but I'll show you a picture of it over here. All it did was it had some gears in it to make the figures rotate back and forth on across the spectrum here. And that's really it. It just had this nice display stand in the back, and then it had the names of all the figures. This was for the first 12, basically, and then this nice background. But that's really it. Not much more to it. Not a lot of play, but a little fantasy if you wanted to imagine them in space. was an odd choice of a background to have them floating in space, but it's kind of an iconic location, so I guess it makes sense for a display stand. But that's really it. They could just twirl back and forth so you could see them. Kind of nice engineering at the time to be able to move things on a display as opposed to just having them flat and motionless. So I kind of like that feature about it. But that's all really to this one. Don't want to spend too much time on it. Just wanted to include it for the case of just being thorough. So there you have it. Okay, so we're going to fast forward to 1979. This time getting away from Kenner, looking at Palitoy, and which is probably my favorite Death Star, the Palitoy Death Star. And this one's a little bit different than the Kenner one. Well, I guess drastically different in the sense that it's cardboard and not plastic. But it still had a lot of the same components the Kenner one had. It has a cannon on it, just like the Kenner one. It has a trash compactor area. It has a lot of those consoles and computer areas, and it has the balcony levels, so multiple tiers. What's different about it, and I can't give you a lot of close-ups of this box because it's not going to stay very well on a wheel. So we'll just kind of flip it around and show you here. What's different about it too that I really like is it has like the hangar where they arrive. It still has a functional trash chute down to the trash compactor. The trash compactor still functions. It has opening doors. It has a lot going on with it. But I'm a huge fan of artwork, and this thing has a lot of artwork on it, and I think it really makes it pop. It's just, it's a little different, but the spherical design really gives you the sense that it's a Death Star and not just a slice of the Death Star. So it just feels more complete. It's, in my opinion, a lot cooler, and it might be also, it's probably a little rarer, and that might be why it's so much more money if you try to buy this thing in the secondary market, particularly getting one that is complete, which is kind of getting harder and harder to do these days. But this is another really fun one. Why don't we hop in and I'll show you all the features of this one as well. So this guy's quite large, and despite being cardboard, has some weight to him, probably weighing in around 4 or 5 pounds. Starting up here with the gunner's nest, or gunner seat here, it has a nice little pivot to it. Fun fact, these guns are actually recycled from the Palitoy X-Wing as well, and they just kind of clip in here into this little plastic, and then they can pivot up and down. And then you just have basically this little gunner's panel, which is obviously it's yellowed out here over time. And he's just got a fun little seat where he sits in here in the top in this little tray. But that's really it. Differs, drastically from the Kenner one, which has that exploding feature and is just all one plastic piece. But you can see the Death Star hangar here with some nice artwork of the stormtroopers coming through. Another fun feature or fun fact here is you'll often see this thing labeled as complete, but it's not complete without these 6 little action stands that are impossible to find now that came with this set. Most people won't know they come with the set, but if you have the box, it will tell you that these 6 little action stands come with the set. Very hard to come by, but that's what makes this thing complete, is having those as well. You have this nice little balcony area where your characters could run through, and of course the central cylinder here. This serves as the elevator, although there's no functional elevator. You just kind of, I guess, climb up that ladder or imagine that they are. But that's sort of the bigger difference here, is no elevator on this set. Moving around to the next little slice, you have your trash compactor in the bottom here. And this basically just slides this way to compact. You can see some garbage drawn into this area, but no foam trash. It's a functional door here. I hesitate to use it. Oh, nope, still works for me. It's hanging on there by a thread. But there's a functional door to get out. And again, that kind of mimics the design from the movie. But that's just this room here, and it connects to another hallway. And then on the other side of it, we'll rotate around again, you can see the entrance to the trash compactor. So you could actually fit a character in there, slide them down the chute into the trash compactor. I think this is meant to be the detention area, although it really doesn't convey that. You can't really see much in there. But you could run around the gangway up here and get to that. Turning around, you just get some more play space. No specific element area here, but just a lot of depth, a little color to giving you this, making it feel like it's a space station and not just a portion of it. And you'll see stormtroopers drawn throughout, and just a little bit of extra flair there. And then lastly, you come around to the operations room where you see some of those Death Squad commanders or Star Destroyer commanders, whatever they renamed them as right here. But your Death Star troopers drawn on the side there with a little bit of an operations room with computers and monitors. But that's it. That's the entirety of the Death Star. A lot of fun flying around this thing with your X-wing. You can imagine it is a Death Star that you can attack and that could fight you off. So one of my favorite sets, just because of all those additional gameplays to it. A little bit more play space, creative space, all that great artwork on the panels, and just feels more complete. It's larger, it's a little bit bigger than that sliver you get with the Kenner one. But again, this one is really tricky to track down if you wanted to find one in the secondary market, and it's in the thousands of dollars now. You're looking to get one with a box, probably looking around $2,500 to $3,000 to get a complete one with a box. So a little bit trickier, but a fun set nonetheless. If you ever come across one, I think you'd be happy to have it as a display piece. It takes up a lot of space though, and it's a little bit heavier than you think it is because this is a thick cardboard stock. But other than that, the only other thing I could point out are these little plastic pins to hold it into place, and they'll help you keep it sturdy. But that's it. Other than that, pretty cool play set. One of my favorite, if not my favorite Death Star that they've ever made. So that's it for this guy. Fast forward to another one. I think this next one you're going to be surprised about, and it's also pretty cool. So let's go check that out. Okay, well, this next one, excited to show you about. It's not in our database because we couldn't procure one at the time. It's very rare. Not a lot of people know about it. It's going to be from the 1979-1980 special offer Death Star tie hanger backdrop. Still kind of a play set here, so it's a little bit more related than the display stand I showed you before. I don't have the box, but I'll show you a picture here. So you can see it is included with the Darth Vader TIE Fighter. Around 79 or 80, they included it in the release of the TIE Fighter. You get these special offer boxes. You're not going to find this box a lot out there. I haven't seen one on eBay in years. I haven't seen this thing on eBay in years. It's pretty cool. But it either came in the box or you could send away for it, and it was this folding cardboard set. It's pretty cool. I'll show you in just a second, but there was also a crop version of it that was included with the Boba Fett Slave 1. I'll show you that here as well. This was pretty much the same thing. They just kind of cut off the top in the, you can see it on the sticker here. But why don't I just show you this thing because I love it. It's pretty amazing. Of course, I have mine in a case here. I had it in graded and sealed because this thing is incredibly hard to find, particularly in a near mint condition. So I figured I'd just have them make me a custom case. This is pretty awesome. I was a fan of Kenner artwork. You can see that this is predominantly artwork. You see the gangplanks here in the Death Star. You can see the trench here with the turbo lasers in the background. You haven't seen any artwork in turbo lasers until this piece. And of course, it's a landing area for your Darth Vader TIE Fighter. So this is pretty cool. It's a way, I guess, just basically to display your TIE Fighter, but it gives you a nice piece of the Death Star, a little bit more element to it, a little depth, and you got a lot of great artwork here. I love it. It's pretty unique piece. Hard to find this thing. Now you're looking at like $1,500 for a really beat up one that's torn and in shambles. I can't imagine what one in this condition goes for anymore just because I haven't seen it in years, so I don't know what it would be priced at, but it looks pretty great. It's a nice little piece that not a lot of people know about too, so it's kind of unique to your collection if you were to have it. It just gives you a different look at the Death Star and more of that great artwork that you don't see anywhere else. But if you could track it down, you know, in my opinion, it's totally worth it. The price point's kind of crazy, but it's extremely rare. Not a lot of people even know about it. It's just really hard to find. You could probably get, I think I've seen some duplicates or replicas out there for a couple $100. But again, not a lot of people know about it, but it is Kenner. It is produced by Kenner. It is official. So this is an official Death Star playset for your 375 figures. They did a lot of cardboard backdrops, so it's in the vein of like the Cloud City playset that was also all cardboard, or Land of the Jawas, although there's no plastic component to this one. It's just purely cardboard backdrop, but it is a playset, so definitely including it in this segment. And I think it's one of the coolest ones, also probably one of the rarest Death Star playsets you will see. So here is the Death Star special offer Darth Vader tie hanger. So check it out. And that's all we have on this one. We got one more element in the vintage for you guys to see. So let's head over to that one, travel into the 80s. Now we're in the coolest decade ever, the 80s. Releasing around 80-81, we have this Star Wars Display Arena by Kenner. This was a mail away. It came in this very nondescript brown box, which I can't seem to find, but not much to it. There's nothing on it, it's just a brown box. A lot of the mail-aways were just basic white or brown boxes. This came with a bunch of cardboard backs that had different pictures from Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. And you could arrange these 4 pieces however you wanted for displaying your figures. But mentioning this because it features both the Death Star hanger and the trash compactor. So again, it's Death Star adjacent, playset adjacent. So we're going to include it in this segment. I guess you could arrange these and kind of pretend like this was the Death Star hanger, because these panels actually have a nice texture to them. They're not just flat. They have some leveling here, a little layering, and they have some texturing going on. So you could kind of imagine that they were similar to the panels on the Death Star, or kind of looked like a Death Star floor. But other than that, not much else going on this playset, or display arena, as they call it. It's basically a way to display your figures, but a little bit better than the display stand, which that just basically featured, the one picture of the Death Star in the background, and it did nothing more than rotate your figures. This one is kind of like a playset in that respect, so it's a little bit more of a step up. Again, same with the trash compactor here. You can kind of throw a bunch of stuff on there and imagine it's a compactor. So that's it in terms of PlayStations or play sets on the Death Star space station and Death Star elements. This came out in 80-81. The series for vintage figures ended in 85. Unfortunately, we got nothing else between 81 and 85 related to Death Star playsets or elements. We did, of course, get Luke Skywalker Stormtrooper and the Death Star Gunner in circa 85, but no elements included with them, just figures. So this was really it. I think there was like a poster that came out later on during the Return of the Jedi series that was included with some vehicles for the Death Star, but that's it. There's no play sets, no elements. It just kind of ended. We got no more Death Star love, but we will see when the Death Star love resumed in 1996 in our second part of the series. So if you're curious to see where we go with that, we have some surprises in store for you there as well. Tune back in for part 2 of our Death Star retrospective. That is all for our vintage retrospective on the Death Star. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you found it informative. You can check out our photo archive to see some of these, not all of them. Like I said, we weren't able to track them all down when we did that archive. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of a closer look at some of the aspects that we missed previously, or that you might not have even know existed, or even considered as Death Star or Death Star adjacent. Let us know if we missed anything in the vintage collection that is either a playset or some kind of element for the 375 line of the Death Star. We'd like to know so we can include it in the future or list it down. So just comment. As always, like, subscribe, and follow us for more. There's always something new on Rebelscum every day. So we love hearing from you. Until next time, stay vigilant, you Rebel Scum.